Now let's move on to the scoring. So after the examinee's response have been coded into being under determinant or under content or under the location, all of these will be converted or rearranged into frequency summaries and quantitative formula. So this way, the various ratios and percentages will be compared among all various Rorschach factors. So the scoring approach is like thematically organizing these different interpretations. Okay, so here are the 8 clusters of interpretation. We will discuss the overview of each of these in the next part of our discussion. Earlier in the coding and scoring, I introduced you to location, determinants, and contents. Right now, let's focus first on the interpretation of location, determinants, and contents. So the location, even if it's the whole area of the inkblot or specific area of the inkblot, it refers to the overall style in which the examinee approach the work. The location also tells us how the examinee confronts uncertainties and ambiguities in their lives. For example, if the response is coded high in whole response or W, it means that the examinee has high intellectual activity or is good in synthesizing contents, as well as has good abstract reasoning. Also, the examinee has good ties with reality and has good problem-solving abilities. And if the response in W is low, it indicates possible depression or anxiety. In extreme cases, it determines how serious the levels of maladjustment of the examinee, and there is also a indication of intellectual deterioration possibly related to brain damage or mental retardation. Another location is common detail. It refers to the person's reaction to obvious aspects of situation. High in common detail means overemphasis on obvious aspects of the situations, while low in common detail means high experience of stress. In extreme cases, low in common detail means poor perceptual abilities that is possibly connected to cerebral damage and impairment. More on the location are unused detail, which represents the examinee's retreat from his or her environment. We also have space, which is associated to difficulty in handling anger. And then we have developmental quality scores, which is all about the examinee's ability to analyze and synthesize information. So here, this is in the table. I encourage you again to look it up so that you can check for yourself and so that understanding is expected. So we have here determinant, which is about the psychological activity of the examinee when engaging with a certain response. So one example is the form. Form is used to indicate the extent to which the examinee can remove affect in a situation. So if the examinee has high in form, it means that the examinee is defensive and constricted. It also means the examinee has the ability to intentionally control affect. Now, if the examinee has low in form, it means level of turmoil. In worst cases, it means acute schizophrenia, or it might also mean the difficulty in controlling impulse is due to organic disorder. Another under determinant is human movement, or M. So this refers to the inner fantasies that are connected to the outside world. It also includes inner thinking, planning, imagination, and even empathy. So if you have high in M, it means you are creative and has good abstract reasoning. And if you have low in M, it means depression and rigidity. More examples under determinants are animal movement, which means emotional impulses with less ego control. We also have chromatic color, which reflects the style in which the examinee deals with emotions. We also have shading texture, which represents painful emotional experiences combined with needs for supportive interpersonal relationship. Another is shading diffuse, which represents sense of helplessness and withdrawal, and form dimension, which is related to introspection and self-awareness. Now, I will give you an interesting part of determinant, which is pairs and reflection. So in our reference book, it is recommended that pairs and reflection should be linked conceptually because it refers to self-absorption. So if you have high in this dimension, you have inflated sense of self-worth and then exaggerated sense of self-pride. So more of like narcissistic tendencies. Now we have content, and under this, let's have an example, animal and animal detail, which relates to adaptiveness. We also have food, which relates to dependency. Overall, content is related to the person's needs, interests, preoccupations, and social interaction. Now, there are research that correlates contents to intelligence. In fact, it was noted in the book that your preoccupation with your career may influence to your response to the inkblot. So let's say, for example, if you are a biologist or a medical practitioner, you might have responses that has contents related to the human body or related to human anatomy. Now, with that example, it can be argued that you as a biologist or as a medical practitioner, you are more preoccupied to those contents that relates to anatomy or the human body. So it means that those contents are accessible in your mind, or it might be that you are over concerned with your career and that you neglect other areas of your life. So that is just common debate when it comes to your career influencing your response to the card or the inkblot test. Aside from contents, determinants, and location, we also have popular response, or the respondent's degree of similarity to most people. So it is the extent to which the respondent conforms to social standards and interpersonal relationships. Aside from that, we have special scores. So it will be discussed later, but the purpose of this is when doing interpretation, ratios, percentages, and derivations can provide more in-depth and interpretation of all responses. Under ratios, percentages, and derivations, we have core section that has 9 formulas. These 9 formulas provide information on the person's dominant personality style. We also have ideation section, which has 3 ratios, which indicates the examinee's meaningful organization onto his or her perception. Aside from that, we have the affect section, which has 3 frequencies that provides information on how the person modulates and expresses affect. And then we have mediation section, which has 5 percentages that measures the examinee's orientation toward making acceptable responses versus more unique ones. Also, we have processing section, which assesses the quality and efficiency of processing information, as well as self-perception section, which tells about the information of the assets and limitation of the examinee as seen by his or herself.